Wow, here we are again, folks. We're going to be in Psalm 17 today. This psalm is called a miktam. What is a miktam? A miktam was a mixture of praising God while in the midst of terrible turmoil. Now, David was in some terrible turmoil in some of these psalms that he wrote. And while he's in it, he's praising God, and he's saying, God, it's kind of like when Job was in his trouble. That was when Job's writing is kind of a miktam too. He's a righteous man, yet he's being persecuted. And so here's David, and he says, preserve me. Capital letters on the preserve. He's saying, God, I've got some problems right here that are beyond me. Yet, I'm going to tell you this in this psalm right here. This is what he's going to say. Oh God, for in thee do I put my trust. Do you say that? When you're in just everyday living today, you need a miktam. You need to praise God. You need to make sure that you're up on top of your life spiritually. Not just physically, but spiritually. You will be down physically if you're not up spiritually. So you need to be up spiritually. He said, oh, my soul, come. Oh, my soul. He's speaking to God, and he's saying, oh, my soul. And I can see this is not just a normal, everyday, one of his praise, the Lord kind of singing psalms, even though he's singing this. But he's singing it in a low tone, and he's singing, thou hast said unto the Lord, thou art my Lord, my goodness endureth not to thee. Extendeth not to thee. What happened? It was like he fell off the mountain. Have you ever been walking along and all of a sudden the next step you took, you weren't paying attention, and it was like falling off a step down, and you were one step lower than you were, but it was a shock to you. And this is where David is. He's in a time of life where things they're wonderful in a sense of the word, but then all of a sudden here comes a bear along, and he's going to steal one of David's sheep. Well, David has to go into a miktam mode, which is saying, God, I got to have you on the scene, man. I know you're here, and I know you're in me, and I know you're blessing me, but I need a double portion right now. I need a double portion on me right now. And that's what he's saying. How excellent, in whom is all my delight. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. So he's saying, I know that you're the only God, and that you're the true God. And he said, their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names in my lips. He wouldn't even say the names of the people that he was around that were doing these things. They would stab a pig, and they would just stick a glass up there, and as that blood was squirting out, they would get a glass of that blood, and they drank it. I've actually, when I was a young man, actually observed a family that did that very thing. And the Lord is the portion of mine inheritance, and of my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. He's saying, God, you're the one watching over me. You're the one making sure that in this period of time here, I'm fooling around with these people that's drinking this blood, and they're not going to like me, not at all, because I'm going to tell them that that's a pagan thing. That's a pagan God thing, and they don't need to be doing that. And so verse 6, and the lines have fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. Wow. He said, I'm in a pleasant place. I'm out here in this pasture. I'm sitting on a rock, and I'm playing my harp, and I'm doing this miktam to you, God, and I'm telling you that I need to make sure that I'm in the will, in your will, and in your well blessings. Look at verse 7. I will bless the Lord who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night season. I like that. I am a man that understands reins. I understand your whole body being pulled to do something. For instance, what I do, PH Tidbits right here, is something I do. My reins of my body, they pull me to it. I can be laying on my bed, and all of a sudden I have a little fright, and I grab my clock and look at it, and I like to do these at 3 in the morning. But now, this morning I didn't wake up until 3:45 because I was doing something late last night and working hard yesterday, and it caused me to what David's saying here. Listen to what he's saying in verse 7. He said in verse 8, I have set the Lord always before me. Why? Because he is at my right hand. Wow. I shall not be moved. You know what he's saying? God is my guide. He's saying my guidance is from God, and not from these other gods that these people were drinking that blood and whatever. So therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoiceth. My flesh all shall rest in hope. Boy, is that a big statement. Here's a guy in the midst of good and evil. It's a yin and a yang, like that thing you see with the black on one side and the white on the other, a yin yang. You can be in the best day of your life. Remember that you're one step from the black side that you could step into. You better make sure you're close enough to God so that when you do step into that black side, God steps up and says, hey, keep on getting it. I'm with you. I'm with you. For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Wow, this one little psalm right here with 11 little verses in it covers the whole gambit of God, from birth to death, from before birth, if you please, till after birth, if you please. That he knows the word hell is after life. That is a death statement. Hell is where the living dead are. And those are the ones that have died without the life of Christ in them. And he said, thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. That thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. Wow, what did we find out here? We found out in 11 verses that here's a man living in a regular, everyday, local life, and he knows from the beginning to the end. He knows he had to ask God to forgive him of his sin, get close to God. He had to keep God close to him all the time, and he goes all the way through from birth to death. And he goes it with both ways. He shows the Holy One won't see corruption. That's the Christian. That's the born-again believer will not see corruption. But those that are others that are the pleasure of the world and follow the world, they will see hell instead of heaven when they die. They will be living in hell. Wow. These are probably some of the strongest 11 verses David ever wrote. And he listen, this is a man that didn't live a life like you and I live, an easy life. This is a man that went out in the wilderness where he could find a pasture, and he could take a group of sheep out there and turn them loose and let them go, and have to watch for wolves, coyotes, had to watch for buzzards, had to watch for... This is a boy that carried a sling like you or I would carry a gun, and he could swing that sling and knock a buzzard out of the air. He could swing it and hit a bear between the eyes. He could knock a fox out of the pasture. He was an excellent, expert shot. How do you know that? Well, Goliath, when he killed Goliath, he had one spot right in his temple, a little bitty place that rock could hit. Otherwise, it would have hit brass. And he slung that stone and hit him right there and knocked him down. And this was an expert shot, man. But he didn't rely on his own ability. He had the ability, but he relied on God to give him the ability. When he stood before Goliath, he wasn't shaking. He wasn't shivering. He wasn't saying, "Oh man, look at the size of that man," like everybody else would. He was saying, "God, I know you have already delivered this man into my hand." And so that's the case. So we're going to call this a wrap right here on this one. That's 11 minutes, 11 verses.